Adding integers with the same sign. Okay, I'm going to add these to your interactive notebook. The essential question is, how do we add integers with the same sign? So I'm going to get started with modeling this for you in a couple different ways. Okay, so I'm going to use some manipulatives here to kind of show an example of what I'm talking about. So we're adding integers with the same sign. So in other words, let's take a look at this. I've got 5 total. Positive 5, right? 5 positives. Over here I have 3 positives. And we know that 5 plus 3 just means that I have 8 positives altogether. In my second example, I've got 4 negatives, so negative 4, and I have another 2 negatives, negative 2. So together I have negative 6. In both examples, if you notice, there were both positives to begin with. In the first example, your answer came out to be positive. In the second example, both were negatives to begin with, and your answer also came out to be negative. Now I'm going to model it using a number line. So we start at 0, and the first number I have is 3. So I'd go over to 3. So 1, 2, 3. I stop right there. 3, and then I add another 2. So I start here where I left off, 3, and I add 2 more. And I end up with my answer, which is 5. Okay, so I'm adding 3 and 2. Both are positives. My answer is 5. Let's take a look at negatives. Negatives, if I start at 0, I go negative 1, that's in the left direction, okay? And then I go another negative 2, so I start here and I go 2 more into the left direction. Oops, sorry, that's 2 there. And I should have a total answer of negative 3 is where I end up at. Let's think of it as a thermometer. Let's say you start at 0, right? And you increased 2 degrees followed by another 4 degrees. So I increased to 2 degrees, that would be right here. And then from here, I go another 4 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I end up with the answer 6 degrees. Let's think about it the other way. If I start at 0, and from 0 I drop down 2 degrees and then drop another 2 degrees. That means I go down 2 degrees to negative 2 and then drop another 2 degrees to negative 4. So I'd like you to add to your notebook your essential question. You already have. Maybe draw your own examples. I have one here that shows, hey, what happens when they're all positives, right? 5 positives, 2 positives, 7 positives. What happens when it's negatives? 4 negatives, 2 negatives gives you 6 negatives. And then you have the other examples using the number line. So take a moment and copy this stuff down, or make your own examples if you like. It'd be even better in your own notebook. Now here's a few more examples. I wrote it in a couple different ways, and we're going to try it without the number line. Either vertical or horizontal, or without manipulatives. So let's see if we remember. 10 plus 19, well, they're both positive, so I'm going to keep it positive, and then I just add the numbers together. It's 29. How about negative 3 and a negative 7? Some of you say, this is not adding, Mr. Ramos, this is subtracting. Think of these as 2 separate numbers, negative 3 and a negative 7. They're both negative, so when I combine them, it'll still be negative, and then I just get a negative 10. 21 and 35 both are positive, so I just add the numbers together and get 56. Let me show you a slightly different way you might see this. Okay, so here we're all adding, as you can see here. Negative 8, negative 1, they're both negative, so we keep the sign and add the numbers. How about negative 3 and negative 7? Well, that's the same thing as over here. See how it's written differently? It means the same thing. I'm adding 2 negatives, I get a negative, and then I just add the numbers together. So those two are the same. Finally, negative 200 and negative 800. That should give me a negative, and then you add the numbers together to give you 1,000. Question is, what do you think is the most efficient way to add 2 integers that have the same sign? What's the most efficient? Meaning, what's the easiest, what's the fastest way to do things that would make the most sense? Would it be to use a number line? Would it be to use a vertical number line? Do you want to use manipulatives? Or are you able to come up with some kind of rule? How will you remember how to add integers with the same sign? So I posed to you this last question. So I went to the bank the other day and I withdrew some money. So to withdraw means to take money out. I took $25 out for lunch, $45 for shoes, and $75 for a car repair. I want to know how much money was taken out of my account when I went to do that. So remember, when you withdraw something, that means to take money out, is to decrease the amount of money that you have in your account. So $25 lunch now is negative 25. $45 for shoes, I took 45 out, so that's another subtraction. And 75 out for a car repair, that's another subtraction. Notice they all have the same signs. So I'm going to use the information that we learned here. These two have the same signs, so I'm going to keep it negative, and then I just add those two numbers together. That's 60 and another 5 and 5 makes 70. I still have to deal with this other one. Now let's take a look. Are these the same or different signs? Well, they are the same signs. So I already know it's negative, and then I add the numbers together, 145. So I know that I took out a total of $145 the other day so that I could take care of lunch, shoes, and the car repair all in one.